Disclaimer: I doesn't claim any of the arts. All the picture shown belongs to the respective artist and company. If you are original owner and want me to remove the video, I will do it immediately. Just send me an email to inform me. And if you liked my content, please subscribe to the channel. Chapter begins and we see Remington. He was standing up straight and tall, very sure of himself. He had a big happy smile on his face. Then he said out loud, "I'm going to join the Zenith Academy." The Zenith Dragon, who was in charge of that group, smiled back, very pleased because Remington was one of the best people there to pick a group, and he picked theirs. At the same time, Theo was watching all of this. He felt really happy inside. He thought to himself that Remington had decided to become a student of the Zenith Dragon. It made sense because they both knew how to fight using water. It seemed like the right thing for Remington to do, but then Theo remembered something from when he lived a different life before. He remembered that Remington went back to his family, the Narcio clan, to get stronger. Later on, Remington started a fight against the Ragnar clan. Theo suddenly snapped back to what was happening now. His eyes opened wide, and he couldn't stop smiling. He realized that Remington wasn't leaving Ragnar this time. He thought about how he had changed things. Because of that, everything was different. It was like he had made a little wave that changed the way things were going to happen. The two friends reached out and shook hands, showing that they respected each other. Remington said, "We're just saying goodbye for a little while." He sounded like he was sure they would see each other again. Theo felt proud and nodded his head. "Let's both do our best where we are, and then we can meet again when we're even stronger." Remington smiled a little. He looked at Theo with respect. "Of course, Theo. I'm looking forward to seeing you again." They were both proud of how far they had come and everything they had accomplished. Then, they said goodbye. Theo then started thinking about Ragnar. He felt warm and happy. Just like he thought, Rai had gone back to Daffodil Palace to be with her mother, the Ice Dragon. Theo knew that was the best place for her. Then he thought about Sybil and the others he knew from the training place. They had wanted to join the same group as him, but they weren't good enough. Theo felt a little sad. He thought that it was too bad they had to go their separate ways, but he knew they would meet again someday. The person in charge spoke loudly across the arena. "The choosing ceremony is now over. Great job, everyone. You can all leave now." Theo took a deep breath and looked up at the big sky. He felt excited and ready to do his best. He knew that even though they were all going in different directions, everyone would try their hardest. Just as he was thinking, someone called his name. He looked to see who it was. It was Hulkus, smiling very widely. He was still sweaty. "Hey Theo, I didn't think we would be in the same group," he said, laughing. Hulkus and Erica came over to him. Hulkus seemed happy and carefree as always, but then he started laughing nervously and even blushing. Erica rolled her eyes at her brother. She thought he was acting like a fool. Theo looked at them, a little confused and amused. He thought to himself that he had made some new friends. He turned to them and nodded. "It's good to see you here. Thanks for helping me back in the second part. You guys saved me." Erica blushed a little, but she quickly acted like it was nothing. She crossed her arms and smirked. "You better not forget that you owe me." But inside she was thinking that she liked strong guys and she thought Theo was very cool. Hulkus didn't think before he spoke. He said, "Theo, I like you." As soon as he said it, he and Erica turned red. They realized that it sounded like he had a crush on Theo. They started laughing to make it seem like they were joking. Theo was very confused. He wondered why they were acting so strange. While Theo and the others were talking, a loud voice interrupted them. "Attention, the commander is coming." Everyone who was there turned to look. Theo stood up straight, showing respect. He smiled, feeling determined. He thought that no matter what happened, he wanted to join the White Armored Dragon Cavalry. He knew it was the best place to start, so he could become the head of the clan. Then, who was called the Demon Dragon, walked in. He looked very powerful and confident. He smiled widely. "Congratulations," he said in a strong voice. "You are now members of the White Armored Dragon Cavalry." Theo thought that he would visit Hilda later, but he needed to focus on what was happening now. Julius walked closer. He stopped in front of the new people and looked at them carefully. Then he smirked and said, "Now let's hear what you all want to do." Hulkus was the first to speak. He looked excited and determined. "I want to become an awesome dragon," he said. Another person was nervous, but he shouted as loud as he could, "I want everyone to know my name." Erica stood up straight and said seriously, "I want to be the strongest person of my generation." Someone else said with a lot of feeling, "I want you to notice me, Commander." One by one, the new people said what they wanted to achieve. Then, everyone looked at Theo, waiting to hear what he would say. Theo stood still and straight. He took a deep breath and remembered something from his past life, the Great War, which would happen in 5 years. He made a fist and then said in a strong and confident voice, "I will become the commander of the white-armored dragon cavalry within 5 years." It became very quiet. Some of the new people looked surprised. A senior member of the cavalry smiled and shook his head. He thought that Theo was very brave to say that to the commander, but Julius didn't seem angry. He laughed loudly. "You should have big dreams," he said. "You came to the right place." He looked at everyone seriously. "No matter why you chose this cavalry, you must remember one thing." Julius raised his fist and said, "Every bit of effort you put in will become a part of Ragnar's history. Today's hard work will become tomorrow's pride. We never give up." The new people felt inspired and ready to work hard. They stood up even straighter. Julius looked at them one last time and said, "Your friends will always support you, and you will always support them." He looked determined. Glory is waiting at the end of this difficult road. He looked up at the sky, where a big dragon was flying. Then, he turned back to the new people, opened his arms and said, "Congratulations on becoming part of the white-armored dragon family." As soon as he said that, the sky shook. A shadow covered the ground. Then there was a loud crash. Something big landed in the arena behind Julius, shaking the ground. Dust flew everywhere, but Julius stood still. He didn't even move. When the dust cleared, everyone was amazed. It was a dragon, shining in the sunlight. The new people thought that it was the commander's dragon. The dragon lowered its head to Julius. Julius petted the dragon's nose and said, "This is my partner Gula. He is a dragon, the symbol of us." While the new people were trying to understand what was happening, the sky became dark again. Many dragons flew into view, roaring loudly. They landed behind Julius. The ground shook. The new people could only stare. Then Julius said, "Now get on your senior dragons." The new people felt excited, nervous, and surprised. Julius got on Gula's back easily. He looked at the new people with excitement. "We will now begin the test to join." Then, he and Gula flew into the sky quickly. Theo was amazed. He thought that so this is a dragoon and that he would also have a flying dragon of his own someday. Just then, he heard someone say, "Let's go." Theo turned around and saw Evelyn on top of a dragon. She was smiling at him. Theo was shocked. "Evelyn, what are you doing here? Are you back?" Evelyn smiled and nodded. "Yes, I am." Theo didn't have time to think because he noticed something else. He saw that Evelyn had a fake arm. He wondered when that had happened. He was confused and shocked and said, "Evelyn, your arm." Then we see that a few days ago, the training grounds were quieter than usual when Cecilia and her mother arrived. Evelyn was focused on her drills and stopped when she noticed them. Cecilia stepped forward, a bit embarrassed. "Evelyn, I wanted to thank you," she said. Curson watched silently. Evelyn bowed. "Lady Chamelia, Madame Curson, if this is about Theo, there's no need. His talent would have flourished with or without my involvement." Cecilia chuckled. "That may be true, but being acknowledged by someone dependable is more powerful than you think. And I've heard you were that person for Theo." Evelyn hesitated. "No, I'm just a retired one-armed swordswoman, that's all." Cecilia took a step closer. "Lights that guide others often don't realize how brightly they shine. Miss Evelyn, you are one of those lights. Let me help you shine even brighter." Evelyn didn't know how to respond. She simply stood there, caught between disbelief and hope. Now, that hope had turned into reality. Theo sat behind Evelyn as they soared through the skies on her wyvern, racing toward the dragon nest. Evelyn glanced back at him. "Thank you, young master. I heard you called in a favor for me, and thanks to you, I can hold the reins again. I've returned to the white-armored dragon cavalry." Theo smiled. "Even though this is something I should have taken care of myself, Mother must have given me the credit." His thoughts drifted to Cecilia, and he chuckled softly. Evelyn's grip on the reins tightened slightly. "I, Evelyn Narville, Pledge to be your loyal sword, young Master Theo. Theo's expression softened. Thank you for everything, Evelyn, and please look after me from now on. Their wyvern descended toward a valley, and as they landed, Theo took in his surroundings, the nest of the white dragons. Dozens of them perched on high cliffs, some soaring in the skies while others lay basking in the sunlight. Evelyn stepped forward. This is the nest of the white dragons, home to the flying wyverns. Since our cavalry operates on wyverns, this is where we hold the admittance test. Theo scanned the area. He turned to Evelyn. And if someone fails to find a partner, they fail, right? Evelyn exhaled. Yes, though rare, it does happen. Theo thought back to Erica and Hulkus. I wonder how the Lank siblings are going to handle this. This test doesn't seem like their thing. Well, they'll figure it out. Evelyn gestured toward the valley. Come on, let's take a look around. Usually, you'll just know when you find your partner. A massive wyvern emerged from behind the rocks. Theo and Evelyn ducked behind a boulder. Evelyn smirked slightly. That, young master, is an opter, a monster dragon species. They grow up to 15 meters tall, and once they claim a territory, few creatures dare to challenge them. Theo grinned. A tyrannical predator, huh? As Theo and Evelyn continued exploring the nest, they stumbled upon a massive creature slithering across the rocky terrain, its violet scales shimmering under the sun's light. That's an Aori, Evelyn said. These dragons can release a toxic mist, and that stinger at the tip of its tail, moving further into the nest. They arrived at a quieter area where another species caught their attention. This one seemed almost docile, its thick, earth-toned scales blending seamlessly into the rocky ground. Aya, Evelyn murmured, a blade dragon species, normally burrowers. They nest underground and rarely emerge unless they sense danger. They ambush their enemies from below. Taking to the skies once more, they ascended above the cliffs. A pack of small, agile dragons zipped through the air, their movements rapid and coordinated. Theo barely had time to take them in before Evelyn spoke. Velociraptors. Speed dragon species. Don't be fooled by their size. They're incredibly smart and hunt in packs. They can also breathe fire. One of the velociraptors inhaled deeply before spewing out a jet of flames, forcing Evelyn to yank the reins sharply. Their wyvern swerved just in time, narrowly dodging the attack. Theo let out a nervous chuckle, rubbing the back of his head. As they climbed higher, Evelyn's gaze softened. That covers the main wyvern categories we manage. The cavalry primarily works with these 4 types. So what do you think? Did you get a feel for any of them? Theo exhaled. His fingers curled slightly, his thoughts drifting to a memory from his past. 6 years after the Great War had begun, something had shaken the foundation of the white armored dragon cavalry. A mutant wyvern. It had stormed through the nest of the white dragons, slaughtering nearly 100 of the wyverns raised by the cavalry. The evil shadow dragon. Theo's mind replayed the chaos of that day. 8 villages burning under a blood-red sky, dozens of swordsmen perishing in the battle, their blades shattering against a foe that lurked where they could not strike. Ragnar had branded the evil shadow dragon as a Class 2 calamity and issued an extermination order, and in the end, it had taken 2 legendary dragons to bring it down. The demon dragon Julius and the sword dragon Lady Plumblossom. But what had made the evil shadow dragon truly terrifying was its ability to disappear into the shadows. Theo's grip tightened slightly. A partner with that kind of potential? That's what I'm after. Before he could finish the thought, his eyes caught something in the distance. A group of wyverns had gathered at a cliffside ahead of them. Something inside him stirred. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the vast dragon nest, another figure stood in silent observation. Julius sat on a separate cliff, arms folded as he surveyed the nest. His dragon rested beside him, its sharp eyes scanning the surroundings as well. A faint sound of footsteps broke the quiet. Julius turned his head slightly, watching as another presence approached, the sword dragon Osa. A small grin played at the edges of Julius's lips as he tilted his head slightly, his eyes gleaming with a rare excitement. Wouldn't it be strange if I wasn't happy? A dragon I've been anticipating has fallen right into my grasp. Osa gave a small nod of agreement. Perfect, she said smoothly. That's exactly why I'm here. Julius raised an eyebrow at her words, mildly surprised. Osa stepped closer, her lips curving into a small smile. Commander Julius, she said, her tone light yet pointed, you're planning to make Theo a pillar of your unit, aren't you? Julius remained silent, his sharp eyes narrowing ever so slightly at Osa's words, her voice smooth but pointed. "Careful with your words, as always. That's so very like you. Running one's mouth carelessly is a fool's folly." Julius didn't react, but Osa's gaze sharpened as she met his eyes, her expression turning serious. "You're painting a far bigger picture than I originally thought." Still, Julius didn't say a word. He maintained his calm demeanor, his posture unwavering, before finally speaking in a measured tone. "I haven't said a single word." Osa let out a small chuckle and took a step closer, her tone firm but friendly. "Relax, I'm not here to pry." She paused before adding, "I came to make a proposal for the sake of that child." That caught Julius's attention. His gaze flickered with intrigue as he asked, "What do you have in mind?" Still composed, he allowed a faint smirk to tug at his lips. "Theo has already chosen my cavalry. He can't go to Plum Blossom Palace anymore, so what kind of proposal could you possibly have?" Osa turned toward the open cliffside. Then, with a confident yet almost playful tone, she declared, "Joint mentorship." Julius blinked, momentarily thrown off by her words. Osa turned back to him, her smile widening with excitement. Julius's usually unreadable expression wavered, his sharp composure momentarily cracking as he processed her words. Meanwhile, back near the gathered wyverns on the cliff, Theo and Evelyn were closing in. Evelyn's expression darkened the moment she laid eyes on the scene before them. "Those rascals are at it again." Theo, his brows raised in curiosity, asked, "You know that bluish-white wyvern down there?" Evelyn's voice took on a stern edge. "He's been bullied for a while now. We've tried everything to stop it, but nothing has worked." She sighed, her frustration evident. "He's been ostracized for not being a wyvern." That made Theo's eyes widen, his puzzled expression deepening as he turned to her. "Wait, what? He's not a wyvern?" Evelyn nodded, her expression unreadable. "No, he's the offspring of a female wyvern and a male vapor." At that, Theo's shock intensified. His jaw tensed, his mind racing. "Hold on, vapors as in Class 1 demonic fiends? The ones that live deep in the sea? How the hell did one reproduce with a wyvern?" Evelyn's gaze remained steady as she turned to face him fully. "That's the mystery," she admitted. "By all logic, his birth should have been impossible." Theo fell silent, his thoughts spinning. He knew what Class 1 demonic fiends were, living calamities, creatures that stood on par with typhoons. A single one breaching the Great Wall could leave nothing but devastation in its wake. And vapors? Powerful ghost-type monsters that lurked within the shadows of forests. Theo exhaled sharply as the realization clicked. A slow smile crept onto his lips as he thought inwardly. So that's it? The evil shadow dragon's abilities came from inheriting the blood of a vapor. His gaze snapped back to the wyvern below. His birth caused an uproar within the white-armored dragon cavalry. In the end, they decided to accept him into the nest and keep an eye on him. But the other wyverns, they would never accept him. And isolating him isn't a solution either. Theo's eyes softened slightly as her words struck a deeper chord. Ostracized for something beyond his control, something about that resonated with him. His voice was quiet but firm as he asked, "Does he have a name?" Evelyn didn't hesitate. "Umbra. It means shadow in the ancient language." Theo's expression brightened instantly. "Umbra? Huh?" His eyes gleamed with excitement. "That's a damn fine name." Without hesitation, he suddenly leaped to his feet on the dragon's back. Evelyn's breath hitched. "Young master, what are you doing?" Theo's grin only widened. "I'm picking him as my partner." Evelyn paled. "What do you mean by that?" Before she could finish, Theo jumped. A gasp tore from Evelyn's throat as she watched him plummet toward the cliffside below. "Young master!" she screamed, her voice carrying across the skies. But Theo only smirked as he descended. "I'll help you live a different life this time, Umbra," he thought, his resolve firm. "Just like me, you'll have a second chance." As he landed on the cliff, lightning crackled at the point of impact, illuminating the moment with raw energy. Theo jumped down from Evelyn's dragon. He had a confident, cheeky smile on his face. His eyes sparkled like he was having fun. But Evelyn looked worried. She felt a burst of panic and reached out to him, her voice full of concern. "Theo," but he hardly heard her. He was completely focused on what he wanted to do. While he was falling, he reached into his bag of items and pulled out some shiny, sharp swords. He threw them down one after another. Each sword cut through the air like a fast rocket. As soon as he had thrown the number of swords he wanted, his eyes flashed bright blue. His special ability, called Hatchling Synchro, turned on. A message popped up in his sight: you can now use your mind to move things you choose. A glowing blue light surrounded the swords as Theo's power took over. The swords stopped moving in the air. Without even thinking, he jumped onto the closest sword. But he didn't stop there. He started moving super fast, jumping from one sword to the next. Each sword stayed up in the air because of his mind power. He was getting closer and closer to the fight happening below. Evelyn could only stare, holding her breath. "What is going on?" she thought. She was shocked and said, "When did he learn to move things with his mind like that?" Then, almost whispering to herself, she said in disbelief, "He's getting so strong so fast. It's unbelievable." At the same time, Theo was looking at a blue-white dragon below. The dragon was surrounded by a group of smaller dragons called wyverns. They were biting and clawing at it, trying to trap it. The big dragon was annoyed and roared loudly. It was warning the smaller creatures. As Theo got closer, he remembered something from the past. It was something he had tried to forget, but he never really could. He remembered his training place and how the other students made fun of him. Their mean words echoed in his head like ghosts. Is he really a Ragnar? Even if he's not a real one, he's still so weak, it's embarrassing. His eyes became dark and serious. He used his elemental lightning ability, sending powerful energy into the swords. The swords started to buzz with power. Golden electricity sparked around them as he put all his energy into them. The air around him crackled, and everything was silent before a big storm. Then he made his move. While still in the air, Theo pulled his hands down with force. The swords, charged with electricity, shot down like lightning bolts. When they hit the ground, a huge electrical explosion happened. White-hot energy spread everywhere, sending shockwaves in all directions. The wyverns screamed and flew away, scared by the powerful blast. Theo landed without a problem in the middle of the chaos. The battlefield was quiet now. Then he looked at the dragon, who was turning its big head to face him. Theo walked slowly towards the dragon. Running away when things get tough? Bullies are always just cowards pretending to be strong. Up close, he could see the dragon clearly. It was Viper, the blue-white dragon. Its deep, smart eyes looked at him carefully. Theo's face softened as he took another step closer, speaking in a low voice. "Are you okay?" The dragon answered right away with a rough, untrusting growl. Theo barely had time to react before Viper spread its wings. With one strong push, it flew into the sky. He watched, annoyed as the dragon disappeared into the clouds. "Hey, wait a second," Theo shouted, his voice echoing through the canyon. But it was too late. Viper was gone. A moment later, Evelyn landed next to him on her dragon. She got off her dragon and walked towards him. "He's jumpy," she said plainly, coming closer. "It won't be easy. Give him time, and try again later." Theo turned to Evelyn. His face softened a little, but he still looked determined. He smiled slightly and said in a steady voice, "No, that's exactly why I need to be there for him now. Think about it. Why else would he still be near the nest if he was kicked out?" He looked at Viper disappearing into the sky, and his voice became more serious. "He's lonely. People always think that getting hurt physically is the worst pain, but they're wrong. Emotional pain is worse." Then, looking back at Viper flying away, he spoke more quietly, with a sense of urgency. "He's hurting, Evelyn. He couldn't have gone far. Please, help me go after him." Evelyn looked at Theo for a moment before looking up at the sky. Far away from the cliff, deep in the rocky dragon's nest, Viper finally landed. His big body was tired. He was breathing heavily because flying was hard, and his wounds still hurt a lot, and he heard faint footsteps. Viper's tired eyes opened, and his body tensed up as he felt someone coming closer. It was Theo and Evelyn. They landed carefully near the hurt dragon. Evelyn spoke quietly, almost nervously to Theo. "Many dragon riders have tried to tame him. None of them have succeeded. He's different. He doesn't trust people easily." She breathed out and looked at Viper's injured body. "And in his current state, it's going to be even harder." But Theo didn't wait for her to finish. Without thinking, he took a step forward, waving his hand. "Can you get me something for him to eat? In the meantime, I'll figure him out. This is my test to get in, after all." Evelyn hesitated but finally nodded and walked away. Theo kept walking forward. A low growl came from his chest before he released a wave of fear, a scary aura that made smaller creatures run away in terror. But Theo didn't even flinch. Instead, he changed his own presence. His eyes flashed red as he released his own weaker dragon-breaking fear. A silent fight began between them. The wyvern roared, trying to scare Theo, but Theo stood his ground, looking straight at him. Step by step, he moved forward, showing his courage. The wyvern was getting restless. Theo could see it. Viper was used to making others afraid and give in, but Theo wasn't like that. He refused to be scared. Then, quickly, Theo took a potion from his bag and opened it. Without hesitation, he poured the whole thing over Viper's open wounds. The wyvern's eyes widened in shock. A message popped up in Theo's sight. Healing potion applied. Quickly heals bad wounds. Partial energy restored. The potion started working right away. It soaked into the wyvern's torn skin. Theo didn't stop there. He gently placed a hand on Viper's neck, softly touching his warm scales. His voice became softer and warmer. "Feels better, right?" The wyvern looked into his eyes with disbelief. Theo could feel the wyvern's emotions, whether it was because of the dragon heart or something else. Viper's mind was full of anger, sadness, and longing. Theo could sense it all. His anger at the group that left him, his sadness and attachment, the pain of being left alone. But there was also something else. Hope, quiet, fragile hope. Theo kept stroking his back, speaking quietly. Viper looked at Theo as if searching for something. Theo just smiled and reached into his bag. "I know you like things like this." He pulled out a shiny gem, like a diamond, that sparkled with many colors. He held it up, smiling as he wiggled it in front of Viper. The wyvern blinked, showing his interest, before quickly looking away, pretending he didn't care. The wyvern opened one eye a little, nodding slightly. Theo chuckled and gently pressed the gem against Viper's chest. "It's yours, a gift." Then playfully he added, "And if you come with me, there's plenty more where that came from." Looking at the gem and Theo's sly smile, he hesitated, but he really wanted it. Theo didn't stop. "I know you hate those things that go on your back," he continued, his voice light, "but I could make one covered in gems like this." Viper's eyes lit up, and he hesitated even more. Theo smiled to himself. Then he thought of something else. "I'm going to have to steal some from Grandma somewhere far away." Suddenly, Curson sneezed so hard, her helper immediately came to her, worried. "Madam Curson, are you okay? You don't look well." Curson frowned. "I don't know why, but I have a really bad feeling all of a sudden," looking at her money like she was about to lose a lot of it. Viper stood tall in front of Theo, his big body towering over him. Then, without warning, the wyvern threw his head back and let out a loud roar that shook the mountains. A message flashed in front of Theo's eyes. "Congratulations, you have been accepted by the Viper Wyvern as their master." Theo held his breath, his heart beating fast. His eyes were full of joy. Another message appeared. New skill learned. Wyvern Taming rank C- mastery 1%. When riding, gives a power boost to both rider and mount. Far away in the mountains, Evelyn flew her dragon through the wind, heading back to Theo. When she landed, dragging the heavy food behind her, she looked up and froze. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Theo, the same Theo she had left just a little while ago, was now sitting next to Viper, laughing and petting him, completely relaxed. "What is going on?" she asked, shocked. "How did you—" "He's never liked anyone." Theo barely looked up, still touching the wyvern's thick fur. He smiled. "Oh, you're back." She was still shocked as she watched him take the meat she had brought and give it to Viper. The wyvern started eating right away. Theo smiled, watching him eat happily. "It's good to see him eating so well," he said before looking at Evelyn. "Thanks for the meat." But Evelyn wasn't going to let it go that easily. She frowned, still trying to understand what was happening. "No, seriously, young master, how did you do it?" Theo smirked, crossing his arms. "Simple. I healed more than just his body. I healed his heart, and once his heart softened, we became friends." She narrowed her eyes. Before she could argue, Viper did something that surprised her even more. The wyvern pushed a big piece of meat towards Theo. Theo raised his eyebrows, surprised, before laughing. "What, you want me to eat that?" He shook his head, pushing it back. "No, I'm okay. You go ahead, eat as much as you want." Evelyn sighed, rubbing her head. "That's just like young Master Theo. He can charm anyone, not just people, but even a wyvern." She opened her eyes and almost had a heart attack. Theo was on Viper's back. Her mind went blank for a few seconds before she exploded. "Wait, what are you doing, Theo?" Theo blinked at her, looking calm. "Getting on." Evelyn's soul left her body. "Getting on? Even if he likes you, you haven't had any flight training. Do you know how dangerous it is to ride a dragon without anything to hold on to? You could die." Theo just chuckled, ignoring how panicked she was. His eyes sparkled with excitement. "Relax. I know what I'm doing." Before she could yell at him again, Theo used his wyvern taming skill. The wind blew as Viper flew into the sky, taking Theo with him. Evelyn couldn't even react. She could only stare as they shot into the air. Theo held onto Viper's fur as the cold wind rushed past his face. Viper growled, and somehow Theo understood him. "You want to show me something?" Theo asked, his voice full of excitement. He grinned. "Okay, let's go." Viper tilted his wings, changing direction. The air shook around them as he flew forward quickly. But something felt wrong. Theo's breath slowed, and he remembered something he had been trying to ignore. This wyvern, Viper, this good-hearted dragon, how did he become the feared monster known as the evil shadow dragon? As a heavy worry filled his chest, a waterfall rushed down a steep cliff. At first it seemed calm and peaceful, but that changed quickly. The air around it changed, and a dark, threatening feeling came from its center. Shadows started to spread. And with that, this chapter ends. Thank you for watching this video until the end. Support this channel by liking this video and subscribing the channel. And if you want me to recap another manhwa or manga, write its name on comment section. And if you want to know what happened in previous chapter, you can watch them in this YouTube channel.